Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready?
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Nice to see everybody here. It's Friday, everybody. And I suppose you can hear all that racket. It's my cat playing with her toys. And she's got quite a few toys, my friends. And she's got quite a few toys. So I'm hoping everybody is staying safe out there as you try to get your gifts for Christmas, okay? The roads around here have been a little bit slippery because today it was sunny out and we had melting, but we also had very high winds and the temperature was like in the 20s, so it felt colder, so that kept the water from actually continuing to melt. It would freeze over, so we had a lot of places where it was just like an ice rink out there, you know, driving. Funny because it'd be sunny day out and, you know, it's still slippery, but that's what it is when you live in Maine, you know. And of course, you know, how they compensate for that here is salt, chemicals, and dirt. And that chews away at your vehicle's body up here. So everybody at some point or other is going to have problems with rust in this state at a very early age of their vehicle. And that's unfortunate because a lot of people, you know, they spend good money on a vehicle and you know, it ends up getting ruined. You know, within 5 years, you're already looking at problems with rust and everything in your vehicle, and that's just how it goes, you know. Got a couple of videos here to play. This first one here is about the CEO that got killed by an assassin, and at the time that I'm recording this, I believe they have not caught the killer yet. And it seems unusual that they haven't, because it seemed like they had a whole bunch of, you know, evidence. They had a really nice picture of the guy at a Starbucks, not the one where he's got his thing covered up to here, but there's actually a full facial one where he wasn't wearing this part that they've been circulating around, and still nothing. So I don't know, but you know, everyone's hoping that they'll find the guy. Certainly can't, you know, let people like that go around. But anyway, we just let me bring you into the video here, and then we'll discuss that on the other side. So let's go to the video here.
Everyone, welcome to the show. So you may have already heard the CEO of United Healthcare. It's a man named Brian Thompson. He was shot and killed on Wednesday morning. He was entering a New York hotel. His company was conducting a shareholders meeting there. He was staying there. Apparently, he had left the hotel and then came back. This was in the early morning hours. The gunman waited for him and then approached him from behind and shot him 3 times. So the gun had a silencer on it. The shooter, according to authorities, said, you know, he seemed to be proficient in handling a gun. And the reason this has become a major story is because, well, it's twofold. For one, it appears to be an assassination for the purpose of retribution. The shooter wrote messages on the 3 bullets. One said deny, the other one said defend, and then the other said depose. So this is similar to the title of a book called Delay, Deny, Defend: Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It. As any of us in the United States know, insurance companies very often will deny coverage, they'll deny payment for legitimate claims, and you have to fight them. And sometimes, when patients are in a dire situation, they will sometimes die while they're waiting for approval, while they're fighting, or they just don't even have the strength and energy to fight. And United Healthcare has the highest rate of denial of all insurance CEOs. So as you can see on the screen, and for those on the podcast, 32% of their claims are denied. 1/3 of every claim they receive. So unsurprisingly, his wife said Thompson was receiving threats, and it had to do with denied claims. The other reason this has become a major story, and this is also no big surprise, is because a majority of the public is reacting with either a shrug or they're actually mocking this man's murder. Let me say up front, I don't think there's any justification for murdering someone. And you also have to take into account the temperature of the country. You have to consider how people are feeling, how Americans are feeling. And if nothing else, we saw that on display during this last election. So here's what's going down. Here's why this has become like a touchstone, or a barometer, I guess you could say, for the temperature of the country. Social media right now is filled with people saying that they either could not care less, right? They're based on how heinous this company is, how they behave, or people are outright gloating about his death. So I'll give you a few examples that I found. One Twitter user wrote, quote, "When you shoot one man in the street, it's murder. When you kill thousands of people in hospitals by taking away their ability to get treatment, you're an entrepreneur." Another person wrote, quote, "Sending prior authorization, denied claims, collections, and prayers to his family." One person even wrote, quote, "This needs to happen more often." Failed Democratic candidate, presidential candidate Dean Phillips, he was just brutalized. He got dragged big time on Twitter because he made this asinine comment, quote, "Seems like leftists opposed to killing terrorists in the Middle East support killing CEOs in Midtown Manhattan. Sick." Now, of course, I joined in on the dog pile since Palestinian children and babies are not terrorists, but obviously Dean Phillips can't tell the difference. Also, the hate towards greedy, callous CEOs is universal. This is not just coming, these comments are not just coming from people on the left. People on the right are also celebrating, or at least shrugging and going, "Oh, well," just like the people on the left. And I found this very interesting comment below Dean's word vomit. This man wrote, quote, "When my kid had cancer, his initial claim was denied by insurance. It was only reversed after my attorney's sister stepped in. I'm lucky. Not everyone has an attorney's sister. I won't shed a tear for this man. Our deaths are called cost savings. Theirs are called tragedies. Cope." This was not just on Twitter either. This was also on Facebook. Very similar comments. And the majority of people responded because United Healthcare put up a post on their Facebook account talking about how saddened they were by Thompson's death, and everyone who knew him really liked him and he was a good friend and coworker, blah blah blah. The majority of people who responded with a laughing emoji. Now, I will say there are also a lot of comments on social media from people saying, this is gross. We need to respect his family, and, the man was murdered. And This isn't appropriate, to celebrate his death. But again, a large number of people are saying, I don't care. I don't care, because these people don't care about us. This really should serve as a wake-up call to the elites, to the politicians in this country who prevent us, who have kept us from having health care as a human right, as every other country, every other developed nation in the world has access to health care. And yeah, they may pay more taxes, but guess what? They actually get something for it. And we here in America bitch and complain about how much taxes we pay anyway, and we get nothing. We get huge premiums, right? The American people are pissed off. When are the elites going to figure that out? When are politicians going to figure that out? They obviously didn't get it, or Democrats wouldn't have lost the election, right? And I'll get into that in another video where I talk about a commercial that Kamala was shut down on. One where she wanted to talk about people's pain and how she wanted to help them and corporate greed. And guess what? Her advisors didn't even air it. Had the best rating when they ran it in focus groups, and they weren't allowed to show it because the corporate elites that backed her, the billionaires who stuck up for her, the billionaires who went out and spoke on her behalf, people like Mark Cuban, people like her brother-in-law, who's an Uber executive, they didn't like that. They didn't like that. And I'll tell you guys, I worked for a managed care company. I worked in the pre-authorization department. So it was my job in customer service. This was one of the first jobs I had, to take the calls from patients or from their doctors, document all of the details, and send it over to our nursing department for review and for pre-authorization. This was for procedures. This was for referrals to a specialist, for people who were in HMOs. So we worked with a lot of different companies. It wasn't just a specific company. We were a third-party managed care company who insurance companies contracted with and hired us to do this on their behalf. I saw nurses who were upset because they could not approve procedures that they knew patients needed. Nurses in their department had to use these set guidelines, and they could not deviate. And again, I would see how they were upset about not being able to approve care because of these BS guidelines. And so many people would just suck it up, move on, pay for it out of pocket or what have you, or suffer. And then other people would fight it. And that's exactly what this book is about. It's that you have to fight for every little bit, shred of assistance and medical care that you get in so many instances. And I found a comment by someone which really sums up how these things work, which a lot of the public doesn't know unless they've actually had a major health issue, which I have had, which one of my children has had. And let me tell you, even if you know it, even if you work in this industry, it is a pain in the ass. It is so tough to get these things through. For those on the podcast, here's what this next comment said. Quote, "My sister is an attorney. Her first job was for a firm that represented insurance companies. They gave her a file of someone's insurance claim paperwork and told her, find a way to deny it. She left that pronto." And that's what their whole motivation is. That's what their whole goal is, right? And keep in mind, United Healthcare, according to Forbes magazine, as you see here on your screen, made $22 billion in profits in 2023. Not $22 billion in revenue, not that they brought in $22 billion. No, $22 billion in profit. That was after all of their costs. They do that by jacking up the rates every year and then paying out as little as possible. That is the business model of every insurance company in America. Their business model is designed to help as few humans as possible. That's how people like Thompson were able to score $10 million bonuses for a year's worth of work on top of their regular pay. These people are not extremely wealthy because they care about other people or because, they actually want to take care of people's needs. They get rich by denying others in need. That is the disgusting and ruthless system that we have in the US. And, for those who think, oh, it can't be that cruel, can it? Check this out. So Anthem, which is the parent umbrella company of Blue Cross and Blue Shield, they had recently announced they were going to cap anesthesia coverage if the surgery went past their, some arbitrary time limit. So let's say you have to have surgery, and for some reason, maybe, there's complications, maybe your blood pressure drops, maybe, it's more intricate when the doctor opens you up and sees what's going on, and the surgery goes longer than what they said it should be. Then you get stuck with the bill for the extra anesthesia for that extra period of time. This is truly sick. It is so dystopian. As of today, though, they decided, hey, maybe that's not how we should treat patients. Maybe that's not how we should treat people who pay us thousands and thousands of dollars every single month. Sometimes, self-employed people like myself, it is literally thousands a month in premiums. And then what for? To give their executives these insane bonuses, to make their executives obscenely wealthy? It's insane. It is an insane system. And for people who say, well, we can't do a public option or we can't do universal health care like every other country has, every other developed nation, first world country. First of all, that's just bullshit. That is what they've convinced you of so that you don't ask for it. It is bullshit because we have the largest GDP. We are the wealthiest nation on this planet. And I would posit that if we have something like, $800+ billion in a defense spending budget, you're telling me you can't use a fraction of that for health care for our people, for our nation, to save lives? I always ask, why is it we have an endless stream of money? There's never a question of how they're going to pay for it when it comes to killing people. But when it comes to saving people's lives, we can't afford it. How are we going to pay for that? I would gladly pay a little bit more in taxes than the thousands and thousands of dollars that are wasted every year on premiums and co-pays and deductibles and all the other bullshit. Plus you're paying for prescriptions and everything else that they're not going to cover. So this is why people wanted to blow up the system. This is why people voted for Trump. And yes, it was wrong-headed. It was, just nonsensical with who he is, with how he governed the first time and what we can expect the second time. But people are tired of the status quo, and this is why. And so you see it in these comments. And again, I really hope that the right message is taken from this. not the pearl clutching and the, couch fainting and all the other BS about, oh, you can't say something so rude and blah. Oh, he has a family. Yes, he has a family. He had 2 kids. He has a wife. I feel horrible for them. I really honestly do. At the same time, I feel absolutely horrified by the fact that men, women, and children are dying in this country every goddamn day because they don't have health care, or because they have inadequate health care, or because companies like this, like United Healthcare, arbitrarily deny their claims because they want to save money, because their CEOs need that extra $10 frickin' million bonus. So spare me the outrage. Unless you care about every person in this country who has lost a loved one to this sick, quote unquote, healthcare system that we have, then I don't want to hear your outrage. I don't want to hear your crocodile tears. It's bullshit. It's total bullshit. So anyway, that is my rant for the month. 2 wrongs don't make a right, but you know what? I think if you looked at the scorecard, there are way more people who have died because of United Healthcare. All right, I will.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of people really not upset about this. They think it's justified, I think, in some ways, that it's a long time coming for a lot of these people, because for decades, and some of you weren't even born when we were having this discussion, some of these people, I mean, these companies have been doing this kind of shit for years. It's a for-profit system. By definition, it means they do this because they're trying to make money. Okay? And you see, the whole concept of having a for-profit system for a healthcare, job, I mean, to give people healthcare coverage, is when you say it's for profit, doesn't that kind of taint the whole point of the system in the first place? I mean, you think about it, it's like, it's like a how can I? Well, I can't think of anything off the head that sounds ridiculous as that, but having healthcare being taken care of by the private sector, by corporations, they only stay afloat when they have profit. And so when they're not getting enough profit, then the policies and stuff that they issue people are loaded with a little more fine print to get them out of having to cover certain things. They still want your money, of course. You keep paying the premiums and you'll keep that policy, but should you fall through one of their cracks, and in some cases one of their holes, that money you've been paying into, they're not going to refund that to you. If you don't get to use it, they're not going to give you that money back. That goes one way, and that one way only. And if you try to get a claim using them and it's denied, that's it. You spent all that money for nothing. And that's not fair. I mean, think about this. Think about Social Security for a second. People paying into that as they work. And then at the end, they say, okay, I'm 65, I'm going to retire. Let me have my, my disability or whatever hell they got, Social Security payment, right? Your retirement. And they say, no, you can't have it. It's like, well, you took my fucking money. Right out of my paycheck. You've been taking all this money for decades as I worked. I want my money now. No, can't give it to you. For whatever reason. Okay? That's not the way, things like that are supposed to work. Okay? And the fact that you have the private sector doing this on a lot of different things, and a lot of these insurance companies, and not just health insurance, but any other kind of insurance you think of, there's always something in the fucking, the application or whatever, that the thing you sign at the end, okay, that, people often don't read. and they only find out when they need it. Okay, there's always an out for these companies, so that way they don't have to keep paying out all the time. Okay, and it's like, well, look, if it's such a problem for these health companies to keep an adequate amount of money in the system so they can pay out, then why have the system? Why do the job? Why offer the health care? Okay, if you can't afford to give people back what they've been paying to you when they need that money, then what the hell are you there for? You know? And in some cases, you are required to have health care. Okay? You own a home, you are required to have that house insured. You are forced to do that. You're forced into a for-profit system. You know, just to say that, oh, it is insured. But what happens if it gets a flood, you know, or something happens, you know, and oh, we don't cover that. The state recommended that I have this fucking policy, that I've been paying into it, and now you guys don't want to deliver on your end? You know, it's the same old story when it comes to for-profit anything. Profit is always going to overshadow need, okay? The need of the company is greater than the needs of the many, okay? And the fact is we have been talked into maintaining this system in our country and using it, you know, since before I was born, okay? You even had a president, George H.W. Bush, had come out and got mad at people for trashing the healthcare industry in this country. And he says, oh, if you think it's so bad here, go to Canada. And the funny thing is you talk to people in Canada and they would still keep what they have up there over what we got down here. Okay? They see what happens here, okay? They right on our fucking doorstep, so they know what goes on in this country as far as healthcare goes. And for, you know, there a lot of people are like, you know, I can't believe Americans let this go on. You know, you treat your veterans better than you treat the regular civilians, because at least the veterans get full coverage if they apply it and get it. You know, that's all covered by the taxpayers. I say, look, if Donald Trump wants to get rid of benefits, medical benefits or whatever to the veterans, I'd say, okay, but you have to do on your end in exchange to create a for-profit system for the rest of the country. You can have my health care benefits so long as you cover the rest of the nation, okay, instead of having them fall on the lap of the private sector. Which do you think he'd do first? Okay? I would speculate that they would prefer never to give people single-payer health care, because there's too many fat cats in this country that would oppose anybody trying to create that. Look what they did to Barack Obama, for Christ's sake. His original idea for Obamacare was the best that Obamacare, the ACA, could be. But after the subsequent months, the arguing, the bitching from the right wing, the chipping away at it, at the end, we got less than half of what we wanted out of that. Okay? And, you know, Democrats try to say, well, it was a great accomplishment. It was a small step forward, I'll give them that. But it wasn't no great accomplishment. It certainly wouldn't have been accepted in years gone by, you know, especially when the social security system was bitched at, okay, in its incarnation. But they managed to get it through as is. That wouldn't have been acceptable, you know, with today's, you know, back then, you know, somebody proposed the ACA and only a quarter of it gets through. No, it would have been their way. They'd have got it all in some form or another. But today it's all different now, because you see we have a lot of hands in the cookie jar, as it were. You know, and what I mean by that is we got too many lobbyists, and we got corporations buying off politicians, you know, try to help them to get rid of regulations and make it easier for them to price gouge and do all kinds of nasty shit for the shareholders and owners of companies in America. You know, they want more money, and as if they don't have enough, right? I've already told you how much of the wealth they already have in this country. The rest of us are just left with the nickels and dimes that we have to scrounge up for the middle and and the poor. But the wealthy, they got all the fucking big bills up there on the top 1%. They're sitting on all the fucking money in this country. And you know, these CEOs here that do these jobs in the insurance industry, I mean, you got to be sort of an Ebenezer Scrooge, I think, in a way, to be able to do that job. Okay, you can't go around pretending you're being some sort of a angel of mercy or something like that. Oh, I give care to people, when you deny a third of your applicants every year of getting health care coverage. And I'm talking about just that one company, but they all do it. Okay, they all do it, but United Healthcare does it more. And they brag about, oh, we got $22 billion in profit this year. They brag about it. I mean, that's as good as saying we're fucking people over and we're rich. You know, they got the balls to talk about it. And of course, you can't hide it because it's on Wall Street. You look at the fucking, you know, their spot on the fucking market, and you'll see the fucking revenue coming in. And what do they do with those premiums and shit like that? They give each other bonuses. They pat each other's fucking ass with cash. And at the same time, people are calling in for claims, and they're like, no, we can't do that, and hang up on them. You know, don't you see that that's really wrong? It's got to be. I mean, how can anyone look at that and say that's an honest business? It ain't no honest business. And when you do shit like that for decade after decade after decade after fucking decade, you're going to end up with a population that's really disenfranchising itself, you know, and cheating themselves out of something better because they've been told that nothing else is better. When, hey, all the other countries that are, you know, as developed as ours and stuff like that, they got that system, okay? It ain't perfect. No system is ever perfect. But when they look at our system, they would avoid it like the plague. They don't want to be victimized by a company, especially when it comes to something critical like your own health. Jesus Christ. You know, who wants to deal with that? Nobody does. Nobody has the time to fight and argue with someone's goddamn policy. You know, when you're in the hospital, you got worries already just for being there. You don't want to compound on top of those worries that, oh, your insurance company may not cover these costs because you've been in here too long, or they may not cover that operation that the doctor says you need. Okay? You don't want to find all that shit out at that time in your life when you're struggling, trying to survive, and then, you know, finding out that, you know, they're gonna just pull the plug on you or kick your ass out on the street or something because, hey, they're not gonna pay anymore, so we can't treat you no more. You know, I like I said, that is not, in my opinion, a system designed to help people. That is a system designed to make people rich. Somebody thought of that, probably the fucking devil, okay, and sold the idea to some asshole who was looking for a way to scam people to make money, a grifter, you know. And all of a sudden it caught on. Everybody started doing it, you know. That's why you still got people doing pyramid schemes, but how many times do those people ever make it through that whole thing? Very little. And they always get caught, you know. Robbing from Peter to pay Paul till the fucking the cows come home. Okay, they never can keep that going, but people keep doing it because it's a quick fix. It's quick cash, okay? But they can't keep up with it because they always end up owing somebody in the end. But these people here that do these kind of insurance things, okay, and they're constantly at you. You know what? You must get spam, right, in your emails from, oh, insurance for this, insurance for that. And then when you're watching the fucking box here, you get hit with commercials, insurance. They got a whole fucking racket going on in this country to sucker people in. All right? They got a whole fucking racket of that shit. You know, suckering people into their grift. Okay? And these people, they only do this for money. They don't care about you. You know, oh, are you going through this right now? I mean, even lawyers, in a way, do what they do because they get money. They get a percentage of your winnings if you're doing a claims thing or something like that, right? It's not entirely just for your benefit, okay? Nobody does anything if there isn't something in it for them. And, you know, when companies are very, you know, happy and stuff about their goddamn profits, okay, that shouldn't be a good thing, at least not for us. If they're making tons of money and yet they're denying people payment instead of using that tons of money that they got in profit to help people, then they're not really there for your health care, are they? Because they say, yo, you can die. I'm keeping my fucking $1.5 million there that I, you know, no, you're not getting that. That's mine. Even though, hey, that money came from the son of a bitch that's on the in bed, dying, who's been paying his premiums for 30, 40, 50 years, okay? No, you're going to take that money, keep it, because, oh, well, you know, we don't cover that. Yeah, I put that in there so we don't have to cover that. So that money's mine by default. I get it because I said you can't cover. You know, they keep changing the fucking rules. They do that all the time. What was once accepted, now it's not. Okay? If you had a pre-existing condition, now we don't cover you for that. What do you think's going to happen to people that had COVID? And all of a sudden, you know, they got like, well, my lungs are having problems. They see that you had COVID. Well, we don't cover that. They didn't tell you that at first, right? But now they're going to start doing that. A lot of people are going to start getting denied coverage for things, and they'll use COVID as an excuse if you had it. Okay? The way they see people today is like the way we look at ants at a picnic. Okay? You're just a nuisance. You're just a nuisance, okay? They just assume run over your ass if they saw you on the street than actually do anything, okay? You're not important to them. You're just people with wallets that got money, okay? Maybe. I mean, after a while, we're not going to have any money to give to anybody because the way Trump wants to run the economy into the ground, we're all going to be impoverished here. We're not going to have a damn thing. So there won't be anybody else for insurance companies to do business with to get more money from. And why keep playing into that game? You know, why? Why do we keep allowing ourselves to deny alternatives without even trying it out? You know, there's no problem with trying out a new system, and if it doesn't work, then you can get rid of it. But if you don't try it, you'll never know. If you don't try it, you'll never know. Why take somebody else's word that it won't work? Everybody that's ever said something like that always had a personal stake in making sure that the idea that, you know, someone else's, you know, like a single payer system doesn't work. They have a reason why they're saying that, okay? Because they're probably getting their hands greased by the fucking insurance companies, okay? You just dig deep enough and you'll find the connection. So that's why I say, you know, we really need to wake up and stop playing this silly game and expecting that, oh, corporate America is going to treat us well. They haven't been doing that since I've been around, okay? They've never done anything good for people in this country. They'll tell you they have. But also, you wonder, well, how come you're so rich and these people are still so poor and some are dead because you people's promised that you was going to help them and you didn't? Doesn't make any sense, does it? All right, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be back with
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
How stupid are the people of Iowa? How stupid are the people of the country?
We have people that are stupid.
There's something wrong with them. And there's something wrong with her, too. She's slow, low IQ.
She's a low IQ individual.
Low IQ individuals.
Well, you know, you think they're stupid, and they are really pretty dumb. Stupid. She didn't know where the hell she was going. Does she drink? Is she on drugs? Some of the dumbest people I've ever met in my life. A terrible, stupid person. And he's stupidly, because he's a stupid guy, too. He's a stupid son of a bitch. We have a guy who's a dumb son of a bitch.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay?
The Democrats say, please don't call them animals. They're humans. I said, no, they're not humans. They're not humans. They're animals. Root out the communists, Marxists, fascists, and the radical left thugs that live like vermin within the confines of our country.
But do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle? There has to be some form of punishment. For the woman? Yeah, there has to be some form.
Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. Now, we're a failing country. We are a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. We are a nation in decline. We are a failed nation. The American dream is dead.
Hello, I'm Patrick Stewart. I believe in helping people in crisis, whether they are from Lebanon, Ukraine, Gaza, Sudan, or any troubled area around the world. I ask you to join me in supporting the International Rescue Committee's life-changing work. The IRC is on the front lines of humanitarian crises, and IRC teams stay on the ground as long as they are needed, so displaced people can rebuild their lives. Your support today matters. It can provide medicine, emergency food, critical supplies, and many life-changing programs. It is a gift of hope when families need it most. I've seen the difference caring people like you can make. So please, if you can, make a gift right now.
America's men and women in uniform need real leadership at the Pentagon. Character, courage, honor, experience. Those are what a real leader brings to the fight. Pete Hegseth isn't just unqualified to be Secretary of Defense. He's embarrassing, sick, struggles with alcohol, drunken rages in bars and strip clubs, fired from 2 veterans organizations for financial and personal misconduct. While at Fox, Hegseth paid off a woman after she reported he sexually assaulted her. Pete Hegseth's own mother calls him an abuser of women. These aren't the qualities of a leader. They're weaknesses for our enemies to exploit. Pete Hegseth isn't just unqualified. He isn't just unprepared. Pete Hegseth is downright dangerous for our troops. He's a risk America can't take.
Breaking the law, 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 breaking the law.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so as we probably most of us already know by now, because it's been in the headlines, or at least it's been talked about for a couple of weeks now, about Joe Scarborough and his Morning Joe program that he has on MSNBC. People are still bitching about that. Okay. And so there's a video here that's about 15 minutes long, and then we'll watch that, and then we'll come back, we'll discuss that one.
Pivot to MSNBC. We have Joe and Mika are kind of in their feelings. Look, I have to say this. For anybody who's in media, whether it's old media or new media, online or otherwise, don't fucking read the comments. Don't read the comments. Don't read the shit on Twitter. Stop. You are literally harming your own mental health for you to think, oh, what are people saying about me? I want to know what people think about me.
But, you know, with Joe and Mika, like, I don't think it's just they're reading the comments. It's also, I mean, whole articles are being written about, like, their capitulation to Trump. And their own ratings have collapsed.
Yeah, 50%. That's right.
So when they announced their whole sojourn down to Mar-a-Lago to, like, bend the knee and kiss the ring, in that same show, in the next hour, they lost 40% of their audience
right.
in a show that's supposed to be building hour over hour. So I don't think they can really avoid the downward, like, observing and being aware of the downward spiral that they've currently locked themselves into.
Yeah, well, people feel like they stabbed them in the back.
Yeah, well,
so, yeah,
they did.
You shouldn't have stabbed them in the
cowards,
back.
And all they care about is, like, sucking up to power, and that's become, like, undeniably obvious to everyone.
But now they're going to compound the mistake. Because now they're going to get on their fake moral high horse and be like, how dare you make any criticisms of me?
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing that they're going to do here.
So the backstory is David Frum, who is like a Morning Joe regular, is used to going on their program and doing his, like, you know, resistance, anti-Trump thing. That's what they bring him in to do. And he thinks this is, like, you know, what he's been booked to do. And he goes on, he's talking about Pete Hegseth. And he's making some, you know, comparisons about him and talking about his drinking and his, you know, his affairs and all this stuff. And he makes this comment. He says he was too drunk for Fox News. And that means you must be very, very drunk. Okay.
So in other words, they're boozing over there like a... Exactly.
Yeah. So he says this, which in the context, like, I mean,
It's nothing. That's nothing. That's nothing.
Okay.
Grow up.
So anyway, producer comes in his ear and it's like, oh, could you tone down the rhetoric? And he's like, apparently he said something sort of like non-committal. And then they reiterated the warning about, like, don't be so, you know, critical. And comes back on, finishes his appearance, et cetera, et cetera. Then Mika comes on air and reads this pre-prepared script about how the previous guest made some comments about Fox News that were too flippant for our current moment, blah, blah, blah. So Frum writes this whole piece that I think it's called, like, The Sound of Fear, about, again, they seems like they're terrified of Trump making good on the, like, retribution that he's promised. And so they're doing everything to suck up to power and cover their ass, etc., which, again, seems pretty obvious at this point. So that is the series of events that triggers this.
That leads to this meltdown that you're about to see on air. Take a look.
Right. The only difference between what we did on that visit and what the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, everybody else is doing is we were transparent. We actually told you. And so I understand if you don't know how the media works day in and day out, and you're just, like, watching this show day in and day out, I understand that you'd be like, wow, okay, man, that's sudden. But for media reporters to lie, to pretend that this is a shock, to try to get clips, for Washington Post reporters and columnists say, how dare they go see him after they said he was a fascist? And that's exactly what the Washington Post is doing. That's exactly what the Wall Street Journal is doing.
Their job.
That's exactly what the New York Times... Yeah, you know what you call it? You call it their job. And let me say this. Two things. You can do two things at the same time. You can say he had fascist rhetoric and still go in and talk to him.
Yeah.
You know why I do that? To get the read of the man. You know why I went in and talked to Macron? To get the read of the man at a crucial time in EU funding and NATO funding. Do you know why I went to leaders in the Middle East who were angry at the United States, and I sat there and I listened to them attacking me personally for 45 minutes because of U.S. policy? You know why I do that? To get the read of the leader, to get the read of where the country's going. So I can come back here and talk to you and let you know what the hell is going on.
With context and
give you context, insight, and background. You know everybody we have on the show that's a reporter? It's what they do every day. They speak on background.
All right, so first of all, you are not a reporter. You are not a journalist. You are a fucking blowhard. You are no different from me pontificating on YouTube. You just do it on a dying TV network.
No,
okay?
he is different because his project is sucking up to power. I mean, this is the show that was the Biden whisperer. They had him on speed dial. They had John Meacham, who was his speechwriter, on all the time and never mentioned that, like, oh, there might be a little conflict of interest for us talking about this presidency while having his literal speechwriter sitting right next to us. And that's part of the game here, is not just their own, like, fear, but also they don't know how to exist if they can't, like, get on the phone with some powerful person. And they're also fearful that they may be losing that access.
So to your point, he's lying because this isn't about some journalistic principles. This is about you wanting access and you wanting to be close to power. And by the way, I believe some of the reporting that they were kind of scared with the shit they said about Trump, and they were afraid, Lord only knows, is he going to sick the IRS on us? Is there going to be other consequences? Is he going to crack down on us in one way or another? And
yeah, they may have
he wanted
secrets.
to be like, hey, dog, no harm, no foul, right? Like, hey, I said some stuff. I don't really mean that stuff, dog. Like, that was the whole point of them going there. And then the other thing is, he's whitewashing it. They didn't just call him a fascist.
No. What he says, too, he says, we said he had some fascist rhetoric. That was the way they downplayed it. When in reality,
they compared him to Hitler.
Yes, repeatedly.
Hitler. So if you're going to compare him to Hitler and then you go meet him, you're Neville Chamberlain. You're the guy who comes up, peace in our time. Oh, shit, he just invaded 4 more countries. Oh, no. Like, that's why people are dunking on you. I mean, Bernie Sanders calls Trump an authoritarian.
Yeah.
Okay. He also says, hey, you want to cap credit card interest rates at 10%? I'm your Huckleberry. Let's do it. That's what Bernie does. That I understand. That's logical. Now, ultimately, I don't think Trump's going to do it, so he's just going to be like, aha, I called your bluff, right? But there's a logic to that. There's nothing other than you are a careerist, opportunist, ladder-climbing, power-seeking freak who's trying to remain relevant. And you made a great point. Tell people what you really like, why the genesis of this whole fight was David Frum saying the thing about Fox News.
Well, I think there's 2 pieces here. Number one, remember after their first Mar-a-Lago announcement, and there was people were very upset about it, and then they came on and Joe did this whole like, well, the people I talked to who called me afterwards, they said it was the right move. So he was comforting himself with like, oh, all my elite circle friends, like they get it. They've got my back. And now you have not only David Frum, who we would definitely consider in that circle, but also George Conway apparently came out and like tweeted Frum's thing and was like, you got to read this. Like with tears in my eyes, I'm reading this like horror from David Frum. So they feel their elite support, liberal elite support crumbling too. So I think that's number one. But number two, it's very interesting to me that the thing that Frum said that they considered to be totally over the line was this really pretty mild critique of Fox News. Well, we know MSNBC is kind of in a death spiral, right? Lost half of their viewership. Comcast has already announced they're spinning them off as part of a like company with a bunch of their cable properties. NBC News is staying with Comcast. The executives at Comcast said this was going to be like a well-funded startup. Okay. even a well-funded startup is not going to be in a position to pay these twos multi-million-dollar salaries. Didn't Steve Schmidt tell us they both make $10 million every year?
I'm looking it up right now.
So guess what would be a logical move for them to maintain
Reported eight is the number reported.
To maintain their money and their power and their influence and their sway in Washington? Fox News.
That's right.
Which now has something like 70% of the cable news market share.
That's right.
It's going to be the only place that's like relevant and has access really in the Trump era. And so they may be thinking that could be a potential next move for them.
No, it's
so
definitely that.
Let's not piss off the potential new boss.
It didn't occur to me when I first watched it, and I was just kind of laughing at how they're lying because they want access and all that.
Yeah.
But when you said it, I was like, oh, that's right. Because, yeah, the genesis of the fight is David Frum's comment of, yeah, Pete Hegseth drinks too much for Fox News, and if you're drinking too much for Fox News, you're drinking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody knows, like, Janine Pirro's a fucking drunk, and she's on air all
Maria
the time. Maria
Bartiromo.
Right? Yeah, like,
yeah.
So in other words, he's like, yeah, they're all fucking drunks over there, right? And if you're going to get offended over that, why would you get offended over that? Why would you get offended over that? The only reason is you want to maintain good relationships. Which, by the way, there's a little bit of a Streisand effect here. Nobody would have fucking known about this comment unless you fucking just blew it up with this segment.
So
where now you're berating.
Well, but they probably like the optics of like, oh, Fox News knows we're standing up for them, you know? I mean, they probably also, like, they're so out of touch. I don't think anyone on the right is really, like, loving this moment from them, but it's not hard to get the right. You just say a few things about like Democrats are too woke and they've lost touch and I'm identifying more with the Republicans now and they're more open-minded or whatever before they start loving you. Like, it's very easy to make the transition. So they're in the process, I think, of moving in that direction. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see them try to make their move over there.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't shock me at all if they get accepted either. Like, I could see it, couldn't you?
Yeah, I could see it. It's just so
Joe
embarrassing and so
Scarborough was
dishonest.
a Republican congressman.
I know.
It's not like it will require some major ideological shift for him. It would, in a lot of ways, Trump will govern in a way that is much more consistent with Joe Scarborough, who was like, you know, a typical cut taxes, cut the regulation, cut the social space. Hey, this guy loved Paul Ryan, and he was a neocon. So, like, it doesn't require any ideological shift for Joe Scarborough. All he has to do is don the pro-Trump cap rather than the anti-Trump cap. It would be easy as anything.
It's just so funny to be like, all viva la resistance, and then all of a sudden it becomes like, you know, I think he's got some points.
Right.
Like,
and be
that's
like,
so complete
like,
opposite.
They were calling him Hitler, and now
I
David
know.
Frum's like, they're drinking a lot, and they're like, you can't. That is, sir, that is too far. And the fact the producer came on the ear is really hilarious too. That's actually never happened to me in a cable news hit where they come on and are like, you need to tone it down.
Well, you said when you worked at MSNBC, you said like everybody was pretty cool, but there's one group that was very cliquish and very elitist. Morning Joe.
Oh yeah.
And you could see it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could fucking see it.
They held
right?
themselves apart from everybody else. And they considered, you know, all the rest of us as like unserious liberal, you know, idiots, whatever. And so they're very,
like,
very
their show
exclusive.
sucks. Their show's not interesting. It's never been interesting.
No, I agree. No, their whole thing has been sort of like CNBC, where it's not like the
Right.
ratings
Yeah,
are
that's right.
amazing. Their ratings have never been amazing, but they knew how to curry influence, and they knew it would be on in the gym on Capitol Hill, and that lawmakers would be starting their day with it, and that leads to premium ad rates, right? The
Yeah,
wealthier.
but talk about like a limited fan base, right?
Yeah. But, you know, ultimately in cable news, like in the business, the ratings, like they matter for money, but not really that much. And so if you're able to place more premium ads in the product, that actually makes up for not maxing out on the ratings. And then obviously if you're like the tastemaker who has the president on speed dial, you become an invaluable commodity for this giant corporate entity that wants to be able to get their, you know, special tax breaks or whatever the fuck they want in front of the president of the United States. And so obviously you're going to become completely invulnerable. You're going to be able to bargain for whatever multi-million-dollar salary you want, because just because of having that access, you've now become an incredibly valuable commodity to the overall corporate entity.
The problem is that network is supposed to be the liberal network. And liberals are absolutely furious at anybody at this point in time who's willing to go back and do less resistance. Like, they're furious, and understandably so. You spent years saying this guy's Hitler, this guy's a fascist, look at the horrible things he did,
Yeah, and
this
then it's
guy's
like,
unhinged.
Oh,
look.
this was a grift. Like, you didn't mean it.
Exactly.
You just
That's
were
the thing.
saying
It just blows it up. It's a grift.
Like, we actually, this is what their audience said. They're like, no, we actually meant it. Like, we actually
Right.
believed you. We actually think this is correct. And meanwhile, you were just using, like, anti-Trump resistance cosplay as a grift. You were monetizing it.
Yep.
That's what you were doing.
Mhm.
And we can see, because the minute that the calculus shifted, you shifted. You changed on a dime. And there's just there's nothing they could say at this point that would dig themselves out of that hole. And they've really tanked the whole network. I mean, the whole network is now sort of like complicit in that same type of thinking. So
Do you think like the Maddows and the Chris Hayeses are going to now like cover the downfall of Morning Joe?
No.
No?
No. These are loyal soldiers. They've already had to bite their tongues, I guarantee you, 1,000,000 times to stay in the seats and the chairs that they have. They're not going to say shit.
Well, all right. Well, have fun in your spinoff with 50% reduced viewership, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. The possibility of radicalizing some liberals right now is very fruitful.
Oh, we
very
know.
fruitful
I mean,
terrain.
shit, we got all the MSNBC refugees in this audience.
Yeah.
Welcome, y'all.
Yeah.
Welcome.
We appreciate you.
Hey, guys, if you want to see the entire...
Okay, so as you can see, they're getting pissed over there. Well, at least Joe is. That they lost half their fucking audience, okay? And he didn't have a whole big audience to begin with, if you ask me, because, hell, I never watched that fucking show, okay? I never really liked Joe Scarborough because I remember it when he was pro-Republican and all that shit, okay? And it seems like he wants to go back to that now, but yeah, I didn't listen to him because of that. And when they put a show on MSNBC, I was like, really? That's like a liberal news channel, you know, Rachel Maddow and all them. Okay, why would they put it, you know? I was like, well, maybe now he's trying to be a Democrat or something, but you know, I never forgot that he was Republican, and you know, it made me think about Ronald Reagan and how he was a Democrat, and then he turned Republican, and he became the worst one, you know, at the time. Really tanked our economy. But Joe Scarborough, people talking about how he, you know, he shouldn't have went and visited Trump and all that, and now he's sitting there saying, well, how is someone supposed to get a feel for a person if they don't go and talk to him? Well, here's the thing. Joe had spent the last 4 years bitching and complaining about Donald Trump, okay? Called him every fucking name in the book, okay? Call him Hitler, call him this, call him that. Did he meet with Trump before that to get a feel about the man? No. Okay, he didn't. He was doing just like what all the other people were doing that remembered his presidency the first time he was president and took their cues from that about the man. We listened to his niece who was talking about the family experiences and stuff that she had with Trump, Donald Trump, and you know, and the people who worked with Donald Trump. We getting information from them. We got a pretty damn good feel of who this man was or is. Okay, he ain't dead yet, but we got a pretty damn good feel of what this man is. There was no reason for anybody to have to go visit Trump to get a feel about the guy. So when Joe Scarborough was sitting here talking about how they made this pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to go talk with Trump just to get a feel of how he is, it's like, why? Why? Are you going to say something different about the man that you haven't, you know? I mean, what is it benefiting us? Because we already know what kind of man he is. You don't need to tell us. You know, you don't need to go. We didn't ask you to go talk to him to get an idea of what he's, you know, what is. No, he went there for a different reason. And it had nothing to do about, oh, his viewers need to know this stuff, right? No, the viewers already know. They wouldn't even be watching Joe Scarborough, okay, if they didn't already know. He told everybody that was watching a show what Donald Trump is. And he made all kinds of great arguments on his program about why people shouldn't follow him, support him, vote for him, whatever. Okay? And it was all done on his program. And then all of a sudden, he does a complete 180 because Trump wins the election, and then he does this crazy ass step. Okay, now here's my perspective here on that. I don't think Joe really expected that people were going to like what he did. Okay, he took for granted that people were going to say, "Oh, he's middle of the road." No, we're not middle of the road. The people watching MSNBC are not what you call lukewarm Democrats or lukewarm Republicans. Okay, if you're watching Fox News, you're a hardcore Republican. If you're watching MSNBC, you're a hardcore Democrat. There is no middle ground there to be had. Okay, that I can guarantee you. So, him going there, and then he comes back and says to everybody, because we wouldn't have known about it unless he had opened his mouth. Okay, he didn't have to tell anybody a goddamn thing. He could have made this pilgrimage and never told a soul about it. But he comes back on the show and he tells everybody, "I went to Mar-a-Lago to call." What did he think was gonna happen? The people that he's been holding on to by the fucking nose ring for 4 years. And he turns around and he tells them that he went and talked to the man to try to find common ground, to get a feel of how he is and all that. I don't think that was the case. And I also don't think it was the case about him worrying about his fucking job. What I think it was, before this thing even happened, there was already talk about MSNBC losing viewers, you know, for his show, you know, and other things that were going on. Okay, they already knew about that. The talks about spinning off stuff was already in the works before he even made that pilgrimage. I think he got nervous. I think he got nervous that his job was on the chopping block because his viewers, you know, ratings have been steadily declining. So, what's he thinking? Maybe I can be a Republican again and maybe Fox News will take me. You know? And if I do something like this and I tell my viewers I did it and they all hate me, and Fox might say, "Oh, let's grab this guy up now. He's gonna turn on them, and we'll have somebody else to put on our show." I think that's what this is about. He knows there's no more money to be made at MSNBC, okay, and so he's going to Fox News. I think that's what this is about. So when he goes to Fox News, he's got this in his resume that, "Oh, I'm talking to Trump. I got a door to Trump. I can see Donald Trump. Trump. You know, I'm Joe Scarborough, and I got a phone number to Donald Trump." Okay, I think that's what this is all about. This is just a career move for him. He's dumping one thing and jumping into another. All right, I think that's what this is all about. I don't think it's about him worrying about losing his job. I think it's about him going where the money's at. Right now, it ain't MSNBC. Right now, it's Fox News. They're making more money than they are. Okay, they just are. I mean, there's a lot of dingbats in this country that are willing to give him their attention and money and stuff. But you know, that's where you go if you're a has-been Democrat or something, or somebody that betrayed the you go there. Okay, you know, that's the dumpster for people who are in it for the money. Okay. You get a job there. There's a lot of Democrats that show up on Fox News every once in a while, okay, you know, and you know a lot of them people are just rejects, I think, for the most part, from the Democrat Party. But they go there, and that's where he's going. I think that's where he's going. So his show will probably end soon, and then one day you're going to turn on Fox, and his fat face will be right there. So him blowing up at his people, it's all a show, okay? He's performing. He's not a journalist. He's not a real journalist. He's just a commentator. That's all he is, right? And as a commentator, you got to have a personality so you can put on a show. Every commentator I ever seen or listened to on the radio, they all have that gift, okay, to perform. And even though Joe Scarborough, in my opinion, is not, it doesn't have really the personality that comes up, you know, along the sides of some of these other people that, you know, that are more colorful, I would say. That's what he is. He's just a commentator, but he's not a consistent one, which means he's untrustworthy. You can't take anything he says at face value because he's just playing people. That's all he does. And no one should even believe that he's really angry that he lost half his viewers. I think that's all part of the plan. He's trying to kick everybody out, and then he's going to leave. And then he's going to show up at Fox, because he knows no one from the fans he's got left aren't going to go watch Fox. Okay? He's got to start all over again. So, you know, like I said, this is just a fucking game that he's playing here with the populace, and you know, for him, this is his way of you know, keeping himself relevant in one way or another, either in the lion's den or out there with the sheep, you know, whichever. Okay, but he's definitely, I don't think he's really pissed off at anybody. Okay, he's just trying to sound self-righteous and everything, and pretend to be angry, and you know, I think this was all part of his plan in the first place. You know, his grift was basically, you know, if Trump wins this thing, then I can jump ship and go to Fox. If he loses, then I can stay at MSNBC, maybe. Because, like I said, they were, you know, their viewers are dropping on that station for the most part. And, you know, I think at one way or another, he would have had to leave or go to a different channel altogether, probably, or whatever. But since Trump won this thing, he figures, well, that's the popular side right now, so I'm going to go where the popularity is. So, you know, people that are watching Fox, you see this guy show up on your channel, okay, just remember where he's from, okay? And just remember that he's already flip-flopped on, you know, twice already. And he said a lot of shit about Trump that he may or may not have believed. I don't know, he might have been just, you know, coddling people's anger and stuff, and, you know, trying to make himself sound like he was anti-Trump when all along he wasn't. Who knows? He was a Republican first, but, you know, just remember, you can't trust him, and he'll turn on you guys just like he turned on the Democrats. As soon as the wind changes, he will change. Okay. All right, so that's it for today. I hope everybody has a great weekend. So subscribe, comment, and share. And keep your ears open for health-related issues. And, you know, just be nice to each other out there. And, you know, while you're driving, be careful, because, you know, if you're especially in the northern states or something, you get the weather and everything. But just be careful out there. And I'll talk to you guys later. So take care.